Hello, everybody, and welcome to this presentation related to the digital divide in Ohio during COVID, as we take a look back on the last almost 2 years now at this point, the changes that have resulted and the challenges we still face here in the state of Ohio in our rural and urban areas. As you can see, looking at the state of Ohio, there is a broadband service issue. We look at the southeastern part of the state, in particular, uh, the Appalachian region of Ohio. And why does that matter? So we have about 300,000 households or a million people in the state without high-speed internet at their house, forcing them to go to locations such as McDonald's to boost Wi-Fi for their children. This has resulted in really kind of some return to the past, looking at types of worksheets and some particularly older methods that were left behind. But without the Wi-Fi capability, the teachers really have no choice but to return to this matter of delivery of content. And this results in lots of lost educational activities. We can see from the chart here, teachers in low poverty schools are statistically more likely to assign technology-based homework for their students. Turning our attention, looking at the rural schools in Ohio, we know that about 75% of homes in southeast Ohio lack access to high-speed internet, according to a Buckeye Hills Regional Council study of 8 different counties in the southeastern portion of the state. And this really does have a negative impact, not just in the entire state, but especially as I touched on the southeastern portion or the Appalachian region of Ohio. And just to give you an example of this is a map of Athens County in southeastern Ohio, the blue county on the map. And you can see the roads that are red. These are roads that have no mobile broadband service. So these students would be part of that 75%. And as you can see here in the northeastern part of the state, Ashtabula County, which borders Pennsylvania but is still Appalachia, as you can see, all the white area is homes without broadband service access up to FCC standards. And even though it's important to remember, looking at those maps, even though the speeds might be listed as meeting FCC regulations, that doesn't mean that it always happens on a consistent basis in the home. So those are two different items to look at. And even though we think sometimes maybe about the lack of connectivity in our rural areas, the same thing applies when we look at our urban areas in the state of Ohio, in particular Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. Looking more specifically at Cleveland, it's one of the worst in terms of connectability cities in the U.S. About 45% of households lack a fixed broadband connection. And you can see the orange, yellow, and red areas are areas that are really underdeveloped with internet connection. And the role of poverty is essentially an important part of this conversation in Cleveland. 1/3 of the residents live below the federal poverty line, which is about triple the national average. As we look at other cities in our state, for instance, Cincinnati, down along the Ohio River, the opposite part of the state, about 17% of their households lack fixed broadband connection for their students as well, which are falling a little bit further behind in the digital divide. And we find the same thing in our urban area of Columbus, city of Columbus, which is doing a better job than Cleveland and Cincinnati, but we still have about 13% of homes in that city lack a consistent broadband connection. And this produces limited student opportunities, not just in terms of school itself and what the teachers can assign, but also, for instance, searching for colleges, scholarships, job applications after graduating high school. So it doesn't just end the issue once the students leave school. Now, help is on the way. Governor Mike DeWine, the Ohio Residential Broadband Expansion, is a program introduced by the governor, up to $250 million to make sure that everybody gets up to the appropriate speed according to FCC regulations, which is at least 25 megabytes per second download and 3 megabytes per second upload. This is very important for our students in any level of education to be able to access the content and videos, etc., that they need to be successful. So it is extremely important that all of our students across the state of Ohio find a way to be connected. Some schools have began offering hotspots, but really it's essential that we find that connection for broadband and find our students connectivity to be a focal point of our efforts moving forward. This has been a recap of the digital divide in Ohio, looking at our urban and rural areas and some of the challenges we face, but also some opportunities that we have to overcome them and move forward together as a state.